Hello friends, welcome to the training Introduction to Spring. In this training we will learn about what is Spring Framework, why is it used and its other benefits. So the underlying question one might think when starting this training is why should he or she learn Spring Framework? Or in other words, why is Spring Framework so popular in the industry? So we will try to answer this question to the students and we will try to explain the root cause of why Spring Framework is so popular. Okay, so these are the learning outcomes that we expect to achieve out of this video. So we'll introduce the users to the Spring Framework, and then we will introduce the users to the need of using the Spring Framework through a problem statement. So first we will specify the problem statement and then we will demonstrate how Spring Framework helps us solve that problem statement. Okay, we'll also look at some of the key features of Spring Framework, and we will also see a demo how Spring Framework helps us to manage dependencies in the code. So basically Spring Framework is an open source Java framework or a platform. It provides a comprehensive infrastructure support for developing robust Java applications. So when we say robust Java applications, we mean applications which are production ready, which have all the features available. And Spring provides us a lot of reusable components which we can simply plug and play into our application and use them, which are already tested and a lot of people in different applications use them. Now, one of the inherent significance of the Spring Framework, it is lightweight container. So basically it has some good memory management qualities. What are those qualities? We will see in the coming slides how it helps us save memory. But a general advantage of Spring Framework is that it helps us manage the memory of our Java applications in an efficient way. And as I already said, it provides us with many ready-made components for developing our web applications. So some of the key modules of Spring Framework are WebMVC, REST, Batch, JMS, JDBC, DAO, integration, AOP, security. These are the commonly used modules of Spring. There are other modules as well, and we will see some of these modules in the due course of this training. So as I already said, Spring Framework provides us with a lot of reusable components. What benefit we get by using these components is that we as developers then have the advantages of focusing only on our business logic and not on the redundant or boilerplate implementations which are common to all applications. Those implementations Spring is already providing us, so that we can focus on our business logic to serve the best purpose for our project. So basically those components are plug and play and you can use them easily, and it also helps you design your code in such way which is easily testable. So in order to understand Spring Framework in more detail, let's take an example. So the lady in the picture is our developer and she is trying to design a student class. So whenever you try to design a class, you first of all think what all other classes my class will need. So the developer here is thinking what all will my student class need. One other thing which is definite is the student needs a teacher whom the student can ask questions, he can submit his answers, get his marks. For everything the student is dependent on the teacher. So the student definitely needs a teacher. So our developer has decided that her student class will have a teacher. So this is the code for the student class that our developer has designed. You can see that the student class contains a reference to the teacher object. Since we already said a student is dependent on the teacher, so student needs the teacher. So so the student class has a behavior study. Whenever we call the study method of the student, it will start studying. But what this study method do? it requests the teacher to start teaching. So when the teacher starts teaching, the student starts studying. So this way, you can see that the student class is dependent upon the teacher class for its behavior. So whenever we call the study method of the student, it calls the teach method of the teacher. So, and in the teach method of the teacher, in the teacher class, it is simple implementation. The teacher has its own style of teaching, so he teaches to the students. So let's see the code for this teacher and student class. So you can see the editor on my screen is an IntelliJ editor, and it is one of the commonly used IDE for Java development. So here I have designed a student class. In the student class, you can see that every student has a reference to a teacher object, and it calls the teach method of the teacher in the study method. So this is our student class, and we also have our teacher class where we have the teach method, and it simply teaches to the student in his own style. So these are the two classes of our basic demonstration. So we have the student class and we have the teacher class. Now what I'll do, I will try to create some objects of my student class. So suppose we have a classroom where we have 5 students. So I'm creating 5 students. So the name that I've given them, student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4 and student 5. So I'll try to create 5 students for my class. So this is a simple main method in a demo class. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create 5 objects of the student class, and I've placed a debug point in the last line so that before this one class application shuts down, I want to see how I want to analyze my student objects. Okay, so I will debug this class, and since I have a breakpoint, the execution will wait at that breakpoint. It will not shut down or complete. So once I run this class, the debugger should pop up. Yeah, we can see that the debugger has popped up and it is waiting at this line number 11, and you can see here that we have 5 students object created with the names that we have given. So we have the student objects here. Now there is an underlying challenge with this implementation, and I created this demo only to highlight that challenge to the students. What is this challenge? Let's see. If we analyze student 1 object, it has a teacher object, and at the rate 448 is its memory address. So if we analyze 2, it again has a teacher object, but the memory address is 489, which means it is a different teacher from this teacher. Similarly, for student 3, the address is 490. Again, it is a different teacher as compared to the other 2 teachers. Similarly, for all the other student objects, student 4 and student 5, each student has a copy of its own teacher. So all these 5 teachers are different objects. So imagine a classroom where 5 students are sitting to study and there are 5 teachers teaching. Do you think it is a good design? If all of you must have gone to school, and what used to happen was there used to be one teacher and he or she used to teach to 5, 10 or 50 students. I hope you are able to realize the flaw in this design. Every student is having a copy of his own teacher, which should not be the case. So Spring Framework helps us solve this problem, and we will see how this problem is solved. So this was our implementation, which we saw in the code, and we also saw the challenge that this implementation has. So there are few challenges with this implementation. Modifiability. If we want to, suppose we have a new teacher added into our school. Now we want to use this teacher instead of the old teacher. Is it possible to do that without changing the student class? It is not possible. We'll have to do a code change in our student class. So if there is a new teacher, we'll have to refer the new teacher in our students class. So basically we will have to change our student class. So this amount of modifiability is not present in our code, that if any new teacher comes in, we simply change some configurations and there is no need to change our student class, and the students then pick up the new teacher. This kind of flexibility is not present. The second is memory saving. If we create 5 student objects, we are creating 5 teacher objects as well. If we create 5,000 student objects, we are creating 5,000 teacher objects as well. So, we are wasting memory, creating too many objects, whereas we could have done with one object only. Now alterations. If there are changes in the teacher class, they might affect our student class as well. So suppose the signature of the teach method changes or something else changes, then there might be a change in our student class as well. Ideally it should not be the case. Any changes in the teacher class should not affect the student class. And fourth is unit testing. If we want to write a JUnit test to only test the student class, it will not be possible without testing the teacher class. If you with this design, if you want to test the student class, you will also have to test the teacher class. But since it's a JUnit, I only want to test my student class. I don't want to bother about the teacher class. But this is not possible with this design. So we will see how we introduce Spring Framework to solve all these 4 challenges. So the solution to our problem is a concept on which the entire Spring Framework is based upon. And the concept is called inversion of control. So in inversion of control, the teacher object is not created by the student class. It is created by the container class. And it is supplied to the student class by the container. So if you see comparatively, earlier the student was creating the teacher. But now someone else is creating the teacher and it is giving the teacher to the student. So you can see it is an inversion. What was happening previous is happening opposite way now. That is why it is called inversion of control. So the power to create the teacher has been taken away by the student and given to the controller. So like the British, when they left India, it was Indian people who were ruling India. So first the British were ruling, now Indians were ruling. So different, inversion of power. Someone else was ruling us earlier, now we are ruling ourselves. So this kind of inversion of control, that is why it is called inversion of control. And inversion of control is a concept. The one of the ways to implement this concept is dependency injection. So in dependency injection, which is the most common implementation of inversion of control, in this case the container takes the responsibility of setting the required dependencies in a class. That means it is the responsibility of the container to set the teacher in the student class, because student needs the teacher. So whenever we'll create the student object using the dependency injection, it will automatically set the teacher into it and give it to us. So student no more create teacher. So if we follow this approach, what benefit do we get? Let's see that. So the earlier challenges that we faced, let's see them one by one. How can we get a solution for them? So now if example a new teacher comes to the school, he has a very good style of teaching. The principal decides to send this student to this teacher to the class instead of the previous teacher. So in this case, now there will be no change in the student class, whether they study from the old teacher or they study from the new teacher. No change at all. And like we saw, we had 5 student objects and they were creating 5 teacher objects. Now there will be 5 student objects and only 1 teacher object. So it will, and if we multiply this with a huge proportion, if there are 50,000 students, on an online class, for example, then still there is only one teacher. So we are saving a lot of object space. That is why it is memory saving as well. And if we are modifying anything in our teacher class, we are doing any changes, as long as there is an established interface contract, as long as that interface contract is not broken, any other changes won't affect our student class. So there is a well established contract which the teacher has to implement, and if it is doing anything else apart from implementing that contract, we are good and there will be no changes in our student class. And this way, when we write a unit test for a student class, instead of giving it the actual teacher, we can give it a mock teacher, and then we can only test the functionalities of our student class. We can mock the first functionalities of the teacher class and test only what is required. This is unit testing. You test unit by unit. You test student separately, you test teacher separately. You don't test student and teacher together. That is integration test, and here we are talking about unit tests. So we will only test our unit by unit. So all these things, it makes unit testing also easy. So all these features, all the problems that we faced earlier are now solved if we are able to implement dependency injection. And Spring, as I said earlier, is a wonderful framework which implements dependency injection and gives us the following benefits. So now our code has changed. What has happened is, earlier our student was referring to a teacher object and it was creating a new teacher object. Now it is referring to a teachable interface. It is not referring to a teacher object. And our teacher class is implementing this interface. And suppose if we have a new teacher class as well, it also needs to implement this teachable interface. Now we can plug and play any of these two teachers into our student class very easily without modifying any change. And you can see we have not initialized the teacher here. If we were not using Spring inside the study method, it would have given a null pointer exception, because we have not even initialized and we are calling its behaviors. But it will not give a null pointer exception. The container will manage these things, and let's see with the help of a code example how these things will work. So this is our modified code now. Now the student has a reference to a teachable. It also has a set teacher method, and we have a teachable interface, and it has one method which is teach, and our teacher class is implementing this teachable interface. You can see it implements teachable, it has overridden the method, and it is teaching in its own style. Now we have a new teacher as well, and it is also implementing the teachable interface, and it is teaching it with its new techniques. Maybe it is a very good teacher, it has some new techniques of teaching, so he is teaching with his own style. So there comes an important question: how will this teacher be initialized in the student class, and how will we create our student objects? Will we still be calling new object every time? And how will the container set the teacher inside the student? How all these things will happen? I'm reiterating the question: how will the student get the teacher from the container? We understood that we are implementing dependency injection, and the container will create the teacher object. But how will the student object get the teacher object from the container? So the answer to this question is by using application context. So keeping the technical definition aside, a simple layman definition for application context is: it is a simple doorway through which we can ask the Spring container to give up the objects which we want. So let's understand the use of application context, and let's see the various advantages that we discussed. So as I showed you the code earlier, now our student refers to the teachable object. It doesn't care to initialize it, and it has a setter for that. And both our teacher objects, the teacher implements this teachable interface, the new teacher also implements this new teachable interface. Now let's view the functionality of this code. In order to view the functionality of this code, I have created a demo2 class, where in the first line of the main method, I'm initializing an application context. As I told you earlier, in Spring, application context is a gateway or a doorway from which you can ask what you want. So we are using class path application context, and we are specifying a file here, application.xml. If we see in the resources, we have this file. So when this line executes, it will read this file and create the application context. So first let's see what is inside this file. In this file, we have all our objects, like earlier we had student 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We again have defined those objects in this XML as compared to the Java main method which we did earlier. And we also created objects of the teacher class and the new teacher class. So we give it a ID name and we specify which class object it is. So we give it a class name. If you click on this, it takes you to the class as well. If you hold Control and click, again it will take you to the class. You hold Control on the teacher, it's taking you to the teacher, and similarly it is taking you to the new teacher. So total of 6 objects I have created, and for every student since every student has a property teacher, you can see it here, it has a teacher. So we are telling Spring Container to set this teacher object, ID of this teacher object, into the teacher properties of all the students. So what it will do is, it will create 5 student objects, student 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will set this only one teacher object in all of them. This bin is right now we are creating, but we are not using it. In a further demo, we'll see that we use it. So let's try to run this code now. And now instead of earlier what we're doing new student every time. Now we will not do that. We will ask the application context to give us the object that we want. So the ID of the first student is student 1. So we have asked the application context to give us student 1. Similarly, we have asked student 2, student 3, student 4, student 5. So let's run it and see what happens. I have placed a debugger again to wait at this point so that we can analyze what all objects have been created. As you can see, the debugger has reached this line, and again we have 5 students. And if we inspect the first student, it has a teacher object and the address of teacher object is 1850. The second student also has a teacher object, but surprisingly it also has the same teacher object as compared to the new teacher object which was there earlier. Now it is having the same teacher object. Similarly, all the students are having only this one teacher object. So overall in this space, if you see, there are 5 students and 1 teacher as compared to the 5 students and 5 teachers earlier. So in this way it is saving the memory, creating lesser objects, and it is logical as well. In a class, instead of 5 teachers teaching 5 students, there is 1 teacher which is teaching all the 5 students. This is how the class is run. So this is the one of the advantage that we get memory saving. Apart from that, if you see, you don't have to initialize the teacher here. The container is initializing it and setting it for you. Apart from that, another advantage which was there, suppose that you want to study from the new teacher instead of the teacher. You don't have to modify any code in your student class. What you simply need to do, you need to pass the new teacher instead of the teacher object. So what I'm changing is, I'm changing the teacher with the new teacher, and the students will get the new teacher instead of the teacher object. Let's rerun it once more. And now we can see the student have the new teacher object instead of the teacher object. So without modifying anything in our student class, we are able to pass the new teacher instead of the old teacher. So this makes our application more configurable, more decoupled. So if tomorrow any other new teacher comes, we can simply change the XML, no need to change our Java code, and things will work as per the contract. So this is also one of the advantages that we talked about. So we have seen the use of application context, how we can get objects out of the application context. And now we'll talk about injection strategies. So what is injection strategies? Basically, which way the container is using to set one property into another or one object into another, and in our case a teacher in a student. This is called an injection strategies. Common injection strategies are constructor injection, setter based injection, and a field based injection. In case of constructor injection, we use the constructor to set one property into another. In case of setter injection, we use the setter to inject one property into another. We'll see a demo for these two strategies as well. So these are the more commonly used strategies. There is field-based injection as well, where we use reflection to set one property into another. So in the previous demo that you would have seen, you would have realized that we had a set student method in our student class. We had a setter for the teacher object. What happens is that the application context uses this setter to set the property before creating your actual student object. So whenever you do context.getStudent, it will call this setter, set the teacher which is available with it, and then create a student for you and give it to you. So in this case we use this property name tag, where this property is teacher, and you are giving it a reference to the teacher bean which you have already created. So if we see the code for this, you can see that we have a set teacher method, and it takes the teacher object and it sets it for us. So we'll place a debugger here to see whether or not Spring container is calling it or not. We are not calling this setter. So we'll see that we have no code which is calling this method, but this method is getting called. So who is calling it? Actually the application context is calling it, or the Spring container DI container is calling it. So if we rerun our demo, we can see that the teacher object is getting passed into the setter and it is getting set. Since we are creating 5 student objects, it's getting called 5 times, and after calling 5 times, our student objects are ready with the teacher objects with the teacher set into them. So basically the application context is using the setter method to set the teacher into the student. This is called setter injection. So there is another type of injection also available, which is called constructor injection. So in this case we don't create a setter method, and instead of creating a setter method, we create a constructor which takes the argument which is required, and in this case a teacher is required by the student, and it sets the property and then it creates the student object. As you can see in this code, we have the student class which has a constructor and which takes the argument as a teacher, and it set it into the teacher property of the student, and there is no setter. So And if we look at the XML configurations, now we don't have the property tag. Instead of that, we have the constructor argument tag, and we pass the teacher object using this constructor argument tag, and then the required properties are set. So let's demonstrate the same with the help of code. So friends, now we have modified our code to use constructor injection instead of setter injection. So what we have done, we have changed the properties tag with the constructor argument tag, and we have told that the constructor argument takes the type of teachable. Now the teachable can be teacher and new teacher, any one of these. And for this demo purpose, right now we are passing the teacher object, and it's pretty much same. The only difference is, instead of using the setter to set the dependencies, we are using the constructor to set the dependencies. So what I'll do, I place a debugger in the constructor as well, so that you are able to see that the constructor is actually getting called. We are not doing any changes in our demo 2. We are still asking the application context to give our student objects, and let's see what happens. So you can see the constructor is getting called 1, 2, 3. Every time the teacher address of the teacher object is same. The same teacher is getting passed to all the students. This is the third time it is getting called, fourth and fifth. And then we can again see that all our students have the same teacher object referred. So this way of setting properties into each other is called constructor injection. So we have seen what is a setter injection, and we have seen what is a constructor injection. So these are the two major type of injection strategies that are used in Spring. So now, if I ask you students, tell me something about Spring Framework. Over the due course of the slides, you have seen and understood that Spring Framework is basically a framework which helps us develop Java applications, and it provides us with different plug and play features that we can use to make our application more robust. And again, as we saw how we were able to save extra teacher object creation, we can say confidently that this framework promotes memory saving, and it helps us save memory, and therefore it is called a lightweight framework. And we also saw that the student doesn't need to worry about creating the teacher object. It is done by the container. So we have a more decoupled code. Any changes to the teacher object will not affect the student class. And then we also learned about the heart of this framework, which is the application context, which is basically a gateway through which you can get the objects that you want. Application context has all the objects, and you can ask application context, please give me this object. It will see whether that object requires any other object. It will set into that object and then give it to you. So you have seen the working of the heart of the application Spring Framework, which is the application context. So basically, we have learned the basic concept on which Spring Framework is built, which is inversion of control, and it is implemented in a way of dependency injection, where the constructor is injecting the dependencies into the classes. We also saw how we can use the application context to get the objects that we want, and then in the end we also saw different injection strategies, which is the setter injection strategy and the constructor injection strategy.